Welcome.
It's time for the further adventures of Indiana Jones.
I could have been your greatest adventure.
No, Frankly, no!
Pack your bag, grab your passport, and prepare to go globetrotting with Marvel Comics' classic four-color adventures of Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
So what are you supposed to be, a lion tamer?
I'm a tenured professor of archaeology.
That's gonna be a big help.
I'm here now. What do you want to talk about?
Welcome, IndyCast listeners, to the further adventures of Indiana Jones. I'm Joe Stuber, and joining me, as always, is Keith Voss.
Hello, Joe. Hello, further fans.
And Keith, looks like the Red Line is going to be coming out of Austria sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm making a trip over to the States in a couple of days, and I'm looking forward to it. I got a lot of cool indie stuff that I ordered online. I got another second full run of the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones for quite cheap off of Nucadia. And I bought a couple of extra issues as well with the Michael Golden covers. Hopefully I'm going to be running into him at the Connecticut Comic-Con and maybe try to get him to sign a couple of those. And if you do like the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones on Facebook, you'll see something I just won off of eBay, a very cool poster soliciting the 8th issue of the Further Adventures. It's very cool. Check it out if you get a chance.
Somebody's been burning up the credit card on eBay.
Yeah, this happens every time before I visit the States. I just buy up a bunch of stuff, ship it to my parents' house. When I get over there, I just pick it up, take it back with me. It's much easier.
And you kind of buried the headline there. You're going to be hanging out with Mitch here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Laird's going to be there too. Maybe Pat. Hopefully you're coming along. And it looks like there's going to be a 30th anniversary Raiders panel. And yeah, drop by, come check it out.
Yeah, trying to work things out. So hopefully we'll get to see each other here pretty soon. But yeah, that's going to be a great convention. Mitch and the guys are putting it all together, and it looks like it's going to be a really fun time, especially in time for Raiders 30th. It's going to be a big indie blowout. So
looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We have a very special episode. I feel like this is an ABC After School special, but we have a very special episode of the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones segment this time. An interview as we're started to get into issue 3. And I don't know about you, but when I first read this way back in the day, I never really noticed that there were 2 pencilers on it.
Me neither. Never noticed it until we started doing a little bit more research on it. And I got to tell you, if you don't know anything about it, you just won't pick it up. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's when you get into it, and it's a fascinating story. The story behind the issue, although this is one of the more bizarre indie tales, and we'll get into it. I never thought we'd do a multi-part segment on this particular issue, but the story behind the issue is actually pretty compelling as well, because Gene Day was the initial penciler on it. The late Gene Day did pencils on pages 1 through 11, and Richard Howell did pages on the balance of the issue. And when you get into it, we were doing some research, and we'll put some links up on the show notes. But once we're getting into this, but a really interesting story. Gene Day died right around this time that this issue was coming out. So we're still piecing together some of of what happened. I'm guessing that, at least from the pieces that we put together so far, was that I heard he was fired from Marvel at one point, died not too long after that, but the deadline had to be met, and Richard Howell got the call from Denny O'Neil, from the scripter Denny O'Neil.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Yeah,
Gene Day did the first 11 pages, and Richard Howell came in to finish the rest of the book. And like I said, if you don't know that there are two artists on here, it's pretty seamless.
Yeah, and it's great too when you look at, and we'll talk about this when we review the issue itself, but really the layouts. Gene Day had done a lot of interesting layouts. He had worked on Master of Kung Fu. I believe he did the inking on many of the Star Wars issues as well. But his work on Master of Kung Fu really was ahead of its time. And I think some of the page layouts, it did a lot of those vertical page layouts, those vertical panels that you see. Yeah. And you see that played out in this particular issue.
And it works.
It works, but I don't know if it worked for Marvel at the time, because I think that's when he was off the book at that point. Very different. That's one of the things I like about this issue. Was he just, I hate to use the phrase "thinks outside of the box," but really in this case, he did think outside the panels
on
these things. And I remember Laird had talked about in a recent email about the Raiders adaptation, how it was interesting some of the page layouts that they did when they would break with tradition. It really brought the book to life, and I think that's one of the reasons this particular issue works, even though the story is kind of bizarre.
It is one of the strangest issues of Further Adventures that you will ever read. It really is. But we will get into that in another segment. But we have a pretty revealing interview with Richard Howell with the goings on, if you will.
Even though he only
during the Marvel time in the 80s.
Yeah, even though he only did a few of the pages on it, he did have some interesting insights too. So why don't we go ahead and head into Club Obi-Wan and speak with Richard Howell.
And enjoy your drinks, everyone. But remember, be sure to check for poison.
Well, we welcome comic book artist and co-founder of Claypool Comics, Mr. Richard Howell. Mr. Howell, welcome to the IndyCast.
Hello.
Just got to say that we really appreciate you coming on here. We've started this new segment here regarding Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, and I know your time on the book was kind of brief. We'll get into that a little bit, but I'm interested right off the bat to find out how you got your start in comics.
I've been drawing comics since I was like 10. When I was somewhat older than that, I started self-publishing, Portia prints of the Glamazons. And then eventually I broke into the big names, mostly due to Kurt Busiek. But I've been drawing comics for the entirety of my life.
Up until the time that you got the call from Marvel, for Indiana Jones, what had you been working on? What were some of those bigger titles that you had mentioned? Because you got into some big titles there for a little while.
I don't know the order that they happened in. I drew Green Lantern, I drew Hawkman, I drew Vision and Scarlet Witch. I had a long series of backup features in that thing Marvel Comics Presents. That I not only penciled but also scripted and inked and colored. I've been pretty active. I did a Johnny Quest special for Kamiko. I did several DNA agents for Eclipse. I've been all around the block.
Any favorites as you were working on them? Anything jump out, or just was kind of one project after another?
I think my favorite projects are the one that I can depend on the next month.
Always good to have the certainty of the check coming in.
Yeah, and the one I'm working on now, Deadbeats, is the most secure project that I've ever had.
Tell me a little bit about that one.
It's a vampire soap opera.
Good timing.
And it's the longest-running vampire epic in the history of comics. It's true. Deadbeats has been going on since 1993.
So, with the bump in interest in vampires, are you seeing sort of more of an interest in that line?
I'm trying to encourage it. I signed up for a Facebook page, and we're dealing with stuff where when people go on to the Google, as the first President Bush called it, it will come up with Deadbeats as part of the results.
Nice. Way to use technology in your favor.
I have no technology at all. I hired people to do this.
So let's go back a little bit in time. I know we're kind of going back a few years, but what was your experience with Indiana Jones, the interest level there, whenever you got the call? Had you seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? Were you a fan?
Oh, yeah, I'd seen all three movies. Were there three movies at that point?
At that point, it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Temple of Doom was almost in release. It was about a year away.
Okay, I did see all three of them. And, basically, I was just trolling the halls of Marvel trying to get work. And I had heard that Gene Day was fired for some reason. Apparently, Shooter just fired at people for no reason.
We're talking about Jim Shooter, who was running Marvel at the time.
Yeah. And Denny needed somebody to draw the second half of the issue. So I was just a warm body.
How was it, what did Denny O'Neil say to you whenever he approached you? Because he was the writer on the book at that time. So what was the call that came to you? How did you find out about the situation that was going on with Gene Day at the time?
He never mentioned Gene Day at all. He just said, I need somebody to draw the second half of this book.
Had you seen Gene Day's pencils at all? Did you get a chance to what was your background with the issue coming in? Script, plot outlines, layouts, breakdowns, anything like that?
I had a full script from Denny. Denny wrote it, and he just handed it to me. That was about it.
Yeah, and there's an interesting story you're telling me too about the one of the weapons that Indy uses in the book. Can you tell us that?
Denny said that Indy was supposed to use a Gatling gun, and I pointed out to him that Gatling guns weren't invented until like 13 years later. And he said, well, just draw something.
Just a minor point, right?
Yeah.
So what did you end up, I think it's on page 20, if I remember, but what do you remember what you drew? It's sort of, I'm kind of looking at it now, but it's like a cannon, like a sort of a cross between a cannon or something like that.
Yeah, Denny was under a lot of deadline pressure on this book, and I don't think he really cared about my historical facts.
Well, he obviously took your advice because in the book they don't refer to what type of gun it is. So if for nothing else, 20 almost 30 years later, you can look back and say, well, at least you made a difference on that book.
on yes, that one book, and I was very open to the work at the time.
Was it exciting though? I mean, it's Indiana Jones. Did you sort of go, okay, well, it's a job, but it's Indiana Jones, so that's kind of cool.
It wasn't tremendously satisfying. I got to draw pages and stuff, but then John Tartaglione corrected all my Harrison Ford faces. So it was like, well, I'm not really contributing to this, and also Danny Bollinati inked my pages, and I didn't particularly think that he understood my pencils at all. So it was just a job.
What did you think when you saw that some of your pencils were done over?
I thought, well, it's just Marvel.
What did you think of the book ultimately, though, when it came out, even though some of your pencils were done over? Did it just move on to the next job kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I didn't think it was a bad comic.
It was a weird story. That was the one thing we talked about. Was the story was really weird. Prospero and the 400-year-old man, and did he live for? I mean, did you kind of look at the story? Did you get a chance to read it over and see what it was, or was it just moving into the pencils?
I just drew it. When Denny accosted me in the hallway, it was like, we need 12 pages by Friday.
Well, I can say after reading it several times that you had a hand in crafting one of the most bizarre Indiana Jones tales I think that's in existence today. So
I'm assuming that's a compliment.
It is a compliment. What was your relationship with Lucasfilm? Did you have any direct contact? Because I know John Burns was legendarily bad. What did you know of that situation, and what was the relationship that you had with Lucasfilm?
Everything I heard about John Burns' relationship with Lucasfilms was secondhand. You'd probably be better to talk with John himself. Have you tried this?
We posted questions on his message board, and he doesn't talk about Marvel at all. So we're going to go ahead and assume that it was one of the worst experiences of his life. I think he's actually referred to that years ago, and he's moving on. But yeah, just being there, I didn't know if your relationship was similar, or if you had any direct contact with Lucasfilm.
I had no direct contact with Lucasfilm.
There was a great line you had told me recently that regarding George Lucas's vision and his thoughts about the property. Tell me that again.
Joe Duffy said everything.
Joe Duffy being, just for our listeners.
Yeah, everything that Lucasfilms, the Lucas says of films or whatever, is gospel, and everything that everybody else does is gossip.
And Joe Duffy, just for the benefit of our listeners, is
and a longtime Marvel editor and a longtime Marvel scripter, and the associate editor on the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie adaptation.
Did you kind of agree with that assessment with about George Lucas?
You know, I had to get to the point where, you know, if people are licensing properties like Star Wars or Indiana Jones or Tarzan for that matter, then they're going to have to realize that the source material is never going to go away, and that's always what people are going to look for. I mean, 2 years ago, I saw the Sherlock Holmes movie, and I said, "Wow, this doesn't have anything to do with Sherlock Holmes." It was pretty enjoyable, but on the other hand, it was like, what would Sir Arthur Conan Doyle say about this? I just don't know.
Is that the sense you got to working on the Indy book?
Somewhat,
yeah.
Somewhat. George Lucas was out there someplace, but he wasn't overseeing everything. He had deputies to do that for him. And, you know, like I say, I'm a very, very minor part of the Indiana Jones legend. Denny basically just told me I need 12 pages done in 3 days.
Is that one of the greatest lines in the Indiana Jones series, is that he's making it up as he goes along? Is that the kind of the sense that you got when you were handed this deadline?
It's not dissimilar. I just, like I say, I needed to get the work done, and I needed work and I needed money.
Did you have any reference points? Did you look at anything from Raiders? Did you look at the Marvel adaptation of the movie? Did you just kind of check out photos? Any source material that you kind of used?
Nobody gave me anything. Basically, I'd seen the first two movies, or the first one movie, I forget which, and I just needed to get the work done. If I couldn't do it, then they wouldn't have given me any other work ever.
What did you know of Gene Day, his pencils, the things that he had done? Because he had a really good run on Master of Kung Fu and Star Wars as well.
I never met the guy. I admired his work. I didn't like Master of Kung Fu. But I thought he was one of the somewhere in the top 4 greatest Carmine Infantino inkers. I thought that, you know, he's a very, very talented. He was a very, very talented guy, and later on in life, I had the chance to employ each of his brothers on Elvira.
Did the subject of Gene come up at all? Did you get a chance to talk to them about him?
Here and there. I don't think they like to talk about it.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it seems such a tragic story to come out of that, because I think there was the talk that he was fired at Marvel. He died not very long after that.
Right.
What did you know about things at that time? What did you heard about what was going on?
Nothing at the time. I have heard through channels later that yes, he was let go at Marvel, and nobody could figure out why. He seemed like a very, very talented guy.
Yeah, it just seemed like he had some run-ins with Shooter, and I think like a lot of talented artistic individuals, they just sort of have their own creative way of doing things, and Marvel just seemed like a machine at the time. I mean, is that the sense that you got? Was just, this is the way it's done?
I'm not sure that my sense of what happened is in any way valid, but, you know, Shooter fired Gene Colan. I mean, what's up with that?
What was the sense that you had at Marvel at the time? Was it a fun place to work at, or was it just down and dirty business?
I think it was hell.
How so?
I would walk down the hall, and editors would come out of their offices and say, and hoot at me. It was just an awful place to be unless you were on the approved list.
I mean, how do you deal with that? Just as a creative type, how do you go through that and still get the work accomplished and still be proud of what you're doing?
Well, I went home and cried, and then got the work done.
That seemed to be John Byrne's reaction as well, too, and on some of the things he posted.
Yeah. Marvel at that point in time was not a happy place. I can't say it was all Shooter's fault, although I certainly could. But it just seems that they were running a mean boys club. And if you weren't in the people who were approved, then they would make you pay for it.
In the sense of just making your life miserable, or just firing you altogether? Or just not giving you the work?
All three.
But when the work was there, the checks cleared, right?
Most of the time, yes.
Well, what have you been up to since Indiana Jones? I mean, there's been a lot that's gone on in the past 25 years or so. What are some of the things you've actually had some big titles that you've worked on, especially in the late 2000s?
In 2000, I believe, I got signed on to be the editor/packager of Stanley Harris's relaunching of the Warren properties. So I was in charge of Vampirella and Creepy and Eerie.
Is that more in line with what you like to do, more horror-based?
I actually do like horror stuff, but I also like soap opera stuff, and I don't think that they are in any way intractable. Superstar in Training, Kurt Busiek, was hired by me to relaunch Vampirella. This is before Astro City, and it wound up being a success of some level. But Stanley didn't like the way I ran things, and he hired somebody on my recommendation who would actually be working on staff, and she edged me out. And she also edged Kurt out. That didn't really work out, but it gave me a lot of experience. And my publisher, Ed Via, decided that I had enough experience by that time, so that he wanted to co-found Claypool Comics with me. And we started with 4 titles, and then at some point it became 3 titles because one of them was supposed to last for 12 issues. We ran for almost 15 years. And then Diamond decided that they weren't making enough money off of us, so they weren't going to carry us anymore. So therefore, we were effectively canceled.
But that's when you took things in your own hands.
That's why Deadbeats is still going on the internet.
And tell me a little bit about Claypool Comics. What's the background there, and what can people expect whenever they head over to the website? And give me the website, too.
Okay, ClaypoolComics.com. They can read new episodes of Deadbeats every 2 days. And also they can buy back issues of Deadbeats and Soul Searchers and Phantom of Fear City. They can't buy back issues of Elvira because we're contractually not allowed to sell them anymore.
Is the appeal still there for you? I mean, is it still fun?
I think I have the best job in the world. I wake up every morning and do pretty much what I want to do, and I still get paid for it.
And what's on the drawing board for you now, literally?
Deadbeats.
What can we expect over the next few months and years from the title?
I am involved with this. I'm in my Terry and the Pirates 1939 sequence, where I don't know when this storyline is going to end, if ever. Everybody in Mystic Grove is tied up in the filming of the, quote, Firelight, unquote, novels. And I'm making dreadful fun about Twilight. The various kids and the various heroes are just, some of them have been drafted in front of the camera and some of them are not. But it just means that I'm having a whole lot of fun. But the way I make fun of the dialogue is really amusing. Plus, I also involve Senator Kane's parents, who were former movie stars, now faded. And they're the director and the producer of this Firelight thing. And, of course, they keep rewriting things so that they get more screen time. And their characters are Count Nostromo and Dr. Grayson. And Dr. Grayson keeps saying, yes, I know how much desperately I love you, but I cannot never speak it. So let us not ever speak it. I'm amusing myself.
I was going to say, yeah, as long as you're having fun with it, and then others can play along too. And it seems like a genre has a lot of opportunities for humor.
I would think so.
You're having a lot of fun with it. And if somebody called and said, we'd like you to do another Indiana Jones book, what would be your thoughts?
First of all, I don't think it's going to happen.
You never know.
Secondly, I'm open to other business opportunities. I'd like to draw Karen Allen.
Well, you mentioned to me that you recently saw Crystal Skull, and she was one of your favorite parts in that too. So, what were your thoughts on the bringing Indy into the next generation here?
I'm not sure what the next generation is going to be. I've read a couple of interviews with Harrison Ford where he keeps telling everybody that he hopes his character is going to get killed at the end of the next film. And
I think he says that about every character.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I think he's perfecting the grumpy old man persona at this point.
I think he's crusty.
Crusty is good. Yeah, he should have that. Should be one of his characters.
Yeah. Well, not Krusty from The Simpsons.
No, but he could just be the kids get off my lawn character.
Mm-hmm. The AARP. Hey, you get off of my lawn.
Did you think it translated well to Crystal Skull? Did you have fun with it?
I did. I didn't think Harrison Ford was particularly good, but I think for somebody his age, he did as much as he could have.
How about the action scenes? And you said Karen Allen.
Karen Allen was very welcome, and Cate Blanchett was great. And I'm not a big fan of Shia LaBeouf, but I thought all things considered, he fulfilled his role. And
if it piques interest for younger viewers in Indiana Jones, then all the better. Yeah. And if there's a new generation of Indiana Jones characters, then I'm pretty sure Lucas and Spielberg won't object. I highly doubt they will, especially since it made, $750 million at the box office. So. Did it? Yeah, worldwide. Oh, that's respectable. Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there that like swinging monkeys and exploding fridges. So... All right, no skull bashing here. No skull bashing here. If somebody calls me tomorrow and says, "Do you want to draw a new Indiana Jones comic?" then I would probably say yes. What would you do with the character? Would you like to plot it? Would you like to just draw it? What would be your take on it? What would make you interested in it?
I'd be more interested in an older Indiana Jones, the way that Crystal Skull happened. I know there's like 20 years between the third movie and the fourth movie, but I'd like to deal with somebody who has some depth.
What would you like to tackle? Sometimes people mention Atlantis, sometimes people mention Stonehenge. Anything that jumps out at you that you'd like to see him, any type of environment that you'd like to place him in?
Either one of those would work. But no, I don't have any preferences. I'd like to have what the scripter has in line for me, unless it involves a Gatling gun.
And then you would just tell them that you're going to draw what you want to draw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any Comic-Con or any convention appearances coming up? Anything like that? Do you do conventions or do you do commissions through your website?
I do commissions through the website, but I've stopped going to Comic-Cons.
Any reason why?
I don't like to leave my house.
That's as good a reason as any. So people can just check out claypoolcomics.com and
Yep.
what are we like? Just ask you to do a commission,
They can contact me directly.
Excellent. Anything else that you've got going on that you want to talk about?
Let me think. Every morning when I get up, I do a color drawing. So I'm getting better at things. And every Friday afternoon, I take a painting class. So I'm getting better at things. So despite the fact that, the Indiana Jones stuff that I did 25, years ago, is not very good. I'm getting to be a better artist every day.
So an Indiana Jones in the 1950s commission would not be out of the realm of possibility for you?
They are not out of the realm of possibility, but I cannot guarantee that the late John Tartaglione will retouch the faces.
Well, maybe we can put something together for our further adventure segment and see how you've updated them.
Okay.
Excellent. Mr. Howell, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and we appreciate the time you've taken for the IndieCast, and thanks for one of the greatest adventures. I know you don't feel you had a huge part in it, but it's certainly one of the weirdest tales that I've ever read, and it's certainly one of the most memorable ones.
Well, I'm grateful and also amazed that you liked it so much.
Well, we did. And give us that website one more time.
ClaypoolComics.com.
Head over there. It's some amazing stuff, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, our interview with Further Adventures issue number 3 co-penciler Richard Howell. Keith, what do you think?
Interesting stuff. It's nice to hear a little bit of what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, interesting take on what was going on with Marvel Comics back in the 80s, and not unlike a lot of the things we've heard and read about some other people's experience with Marvel. Not always the most pleasant experience.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was too much fun for all the guys that were working there. Maybe for some of them, but not for all, especially for Richard Howell.
Yeah, and again, just as a fan, I mean, we can sit back and enjoy the stories and the tales that came out of this. So, again, for a working experience, probably wasn't the best for many of the writers and artists back in the day, but we get the benefit, we get the fruits of those labors.
Yeah, and for the short time that he had, he did a very good job. I think the artwork on issue number 3 is very well done.
I like it. I mean, it's really interesting. Gatling gun aside, or cannon aside, whatever that thing turned out to be. But
crazy story aside,
yeah, it's one of the more memorable ones. I thought when we were first talking about this, I thought we were just going to kind of gloss over issue 3. Briefly, but turns
out it's one of our more looked into issues so far.
Yeah, it's a great backstory behind it, so we'll get more on that in the weeks ahead. And speaking of further adventures, we've got some further adventures of our own. We've got some light housekeeping to do.
Yeah, we do. We have a winner of our Sentinel contest. We read all the submissions on the Facebook page and came to the conclusion that Felipe Bermudez is our winner of the Sentinel contest. He came up with a great story, didn't he?
He did. I really liked it. There's a lot of thought put into this. A lot of thought in all the entries, too. We appreciate all the entries coming in. It was a really tough job. There were I enjoy the fact that they made our job tougher to come into this.
it was tough. I mean, they were all good submissions. It was a lot of fun to read each and every one of them. Thank you, everybody, for submitting.
Yeah, and we don't really have much from John Byrne regarding that Sentinel piece that we talked about, but I enjoyed reading everybody's take on it. So, Felipe is the winner. He had mentioned he'd actually given us some story notes too along with it.
He did.
He said, here are some fun facts about his story. The ruins of Copan do exist in the western part of the Honduras. Also, Santa Rosa of Copan is actually not far from there either. But last but not least, Apuca, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, was actually a Mayan god, the god of deaths. Thanks again, guys, and keep up the great work. And here's his story. Western Honduras, 1934. Indiana has found a secret entrance beneath the ruins of Copan from an old manuscript he discovered in a Santa Rosa marketplace. Legend says the guardian of the tomb, known to locals as El Sentinel de la Tumba, keeps watch over the idol Apuca. Locals don't believe the legend because no existing evidence of the passage had ever been revealed until now. Indy stumbles upon the relic, not knowing when human hands touch the artifact. The Sentinel comes to life. Indy feels a cold chill in his neck, sensing something behind him. All he can think is, Indy, you twit. Now what have you gotten yourself into? So, great story. Yeah, I appreciate that. I want more. I want to hear more.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. I think Felipe may have gone a couple of words over the limit, but I'll make sure we deduct that from the shipping.
We'll let him slide with that, I think.
We're pretty easy going, but very, very good job, Felipe. Congratulations. We're going to be sending those prizes out to you.
Just send us your mailing address at thefurtheradventures@gmail.com, and we'll get those prizes out to you right away. And for all you other listeners out there, if you want to read all the other submissions, go ahead and like us at The Further Adventures on Facebook.
Hey, let's check out the mailbox.
Mister, get your arm out of that mailbox. I mean now.
Oh, dear me. I haven't had so much trouble delivering a package since the incident in Vienna.
We got an email from Dixon Kinzer who writes, "Greetings. Just wanted to drop you both a line to say how much I love your new segment on the further adventures of Indiana Jones. Even though I've been an obsessive Indy fan since I saw Raiders in the theater, I've remained relatively unfamiliar with Indy's comic adventures, the most recent Dark Horse books notwithstanding. However, the most recent audio drama coupled with your new segment has got me on board. So I went down to the comic shop last weekend, picked up the Further Adventures Omnibus Volume 1, and I'm now reading along with you guys every week. Thanks for making our common life of the IndyCast that much richer, and keep up the good work." Thanks a lot, Dixon, for your email. Hey,
Thanks,
we really
Dixon.
appreciate it. And yeah, keep reading along with us. I guarantee after you finish the Further Adventure Omnibus Volume 1, you're going to want to go out and get Volume 2. They're all very cool. They're reasonably priced, and they look great. They're like the digitally remastered versions of the Further Adventures comic book. What do you say, Joe?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's probably one of my favorite parts about doing this segment now. And thanks to Ed for letting us do this. We've said that before, but very much.
We really appreciate it.
I like that. But we've a few comments on the Facebook page, and a few of our emails have mentioned that people are digging through their long comic book boxes and finding these old issues and running out and getting the omnibus, and they're going to follow along issue by issue with us. So I think that's probably my favorite part of doing this is that we get to read it along with everybody else, and we get to relive these adventures again. I'm just glad people are enjoying it. So it's nice to hear back from people. Keep that coming. Keep the emails coming. We want to hear all the feedback we can.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, that's it for the day then.
Well, that about wraps things up for this segment of The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. We'll be back pretty soon with our review of issue number 3. Keith, safe travels to you as you head toward the States.
I appreciate it. I hope we get to meet up at Comic-Con. That would be a lot of fun. And for anybody else that is going to be in the New Haven, Connecticut area, come on by and visit us. It's ComicCon2ends.com. And like I said, Laird, Joe hopefully will be there. I'll be there, Pat, and Mitch, of course. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Come on by and say hi. We have an IndyCast table. So yeah, there's going to be some further adventure talking going on. Maybe we're going to get some interviews. We'll surprise you guys. We got some cool stuff lined up.
A lot of great stuff going on, and we'll look forward to coming back the next time on The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.